The lesson in coaching. This lesson is the lesson in coaching. Now you're probably wondering what I'm talking about. First, let me give you a crazy viewpoint of coaching. Let's say my company calls you and we tell you that we're so good at coaching that we could come in, you could give us your employees with the worst attitudes in the world and give us 1 or 2 coaching sessions and we fixed them. They're all better because we're great at what we do. Would you believe me? Gosh, I hope not. Some of those people have had years of practicing that bad attitude. Us magically showing up doesn't make sense. Nor does it make sense to hold yourself accountable to that. What do I mean? First of all, many of you know I've been teaching coaching for over 20 years. And the coaching industry has gone through a lot of ebbs and flows. We've gone up and down with the value of coaching. I will tell you right now, there is never a better time to start a coaching program. And here's why. Coaching continues to grow. It is probably the talent developer. It is probably the talent retainer. But we have to do it. We have to become good at it. We have to practice it. We have to schedule it. But this is the lesson in coaching I really want you to learn. So what are we coaching to? Are we coaching to the situation or the issue? So let's say we observe a couple people at the water cooler and they're gossiping and they're talking and they're being negative. What do we typically do? We tell them to cut it out. As if we've really convinced ourselves they'll never do that again. When in fact, what are we coaching to? We should be coaching to attitude. And by the way, at the start of this lesson, I was using some sarcasm that we could show up magically and fix an attitude. Then why would you hold yourself accountable to that? Why would managers hold themselves accountable to that? Let's say we have 2 people fighting. Are we really coaching to that situation? Or do we need to coach to better teamwork? And let's say we have a salesperson with lower sales. What do we typically do? We bring them in, we bring out the spreadsheet, we bring out their forecast, and we tell them, you got to get your numbers up. They probably already know that. Or do we need to coach to better needs-based selling? So coaching is really something that we have to go back to and define at our organizations. And in the last 3 weeks, I've met with 4 different clients and I've heard these 3 words. And I literally started to create tally marks by these words. Fix, address, correct. Now sometimes we need to do those. I don't want to mince words and say we should never do that. But the fact of the matter is when we're coaching and you're fixing someone and you're correcting them and you're addressing them, they're probably going to start to create a negative connotation or negative association with this thing called coaching, which whether it's the end user being coached or the person providing the coaching, the manager or the leader. But when we use words like this, correct me if I'm wrong, it comes off punitive. We're fixing someone. I mean, can you imagine getting up in the early morning and saying to your significant other or spouse and say, honey, I got to get into work and get fixed. I hope they correct me today. It's not inspiring. It's not motivating. And if we just address the situation, whether at the water cooler, 2 people who are fighting, do we really think those people walk away and say, boy, am I happy Bob stopped me. That guy's right. What do they walk away and do? They come up with reasons why they weren't really at fault. Coaching is something that we should be using words such as nurture, schedule to continuously improve, practice, positive feedback. So what I want you to think about at your organization is, what is coaching? What are the words you're using? Because I think it represents how you're approaching and coaching. But if we're using words such as fix, address, and correct, again, we need to do that sometimes. But when we talk about coaching, it's got to be scheduled. We've got to commit time. We've got to nurture. We've got to call people into our office for the really good stuff. And by the way, if we're not practicing, people don't arbitrarily get better. So the concept is this, and it's really hit me hard over the last 30 days. I've been traveling throughout the country and doing a lot of best practice sessions, and what I always hear is that I'm coaching to the situation. And we are creatures of habit. When we hear a salesperson using close-ended questions, we want to correct it. We want to fix it. Got to ask open-ended questions. When we hear a customer service person getting upset with an angry customer, we've got to tell them to be friendly. That's coaching to the situation. But what we really need to be coaching to, are the underlying issues, the changes, the opportunities for improvement. See, two people not getting along can't be corrected. If two people have such discord that they get into an argument and refuse to work, they got to find common ground. But to go up to them and just rhetorically say, you know, Bob, Julie, you got to get along. Do they really look at each other and say, you know, he's right. We should hug it out. Gosh, I hope you're laughing, by the way. It's one of those tough things because what we do as manager, leaders, and coaches is we're wearing a lot of hats. So what do we want to do? We want to correct, we want to fix, we want to address. Because when we do that in our own minds, we say to ourselves, whew, I fixed that. One less thing I got to worry about. When in fact, the issue still lingers. The change required still lingers. The opportunity for improvement still exists. I hope this has helped.